Hello everyone, and welcome back to Game Review. My name is Caleb Denby, and today we're going to be looking at a game between Alexey Shirov and Wenjun that was actually played earlier in 2019. So this was a pretty interesting game. Shirov starts this game by going d4. Wenjun responds with knight f6, and the game continues with c4, e6, knight f3, d5, and g3. And we are firmly in a Catalan. Of course, there are many responses to the Catalan. Wenjun actually went for a pretty interesting one. It's more of a modern one, although the idea is a few years old now. It's to give this check with bishop b4. And this is a pretty interesting idea, actually. The idea for black is that there's no comfortable way to respond to this check. All three of these moves actually have their downside, although all three moves have been tried and are playable. Knight c3, this knight's just a little bit uncomfortable being pinned here, and you might run into some trouble involving this pin. For example, the e4 square is a bit weak, and black has the option to kind of take on c4 as well. And already, pressure on the center. Knight d2 has some obvious problems to it as well. You're blocking in this bishop. It's not super comfortable. And lastly, bishop d2 is what was played in this game, and it's what's played most often. But the problem is here, now your bishop's just kind of interfering with your own pieces. It's also kind of blocking some development for white. So normally, in response to bishop d2, black drops this bishop back to e7. And the reason for that is that a very common idea for white is to expand in the center with e4, and after e4, you're going to run into the threat of e5 if you bring this bishop back to d6. And for that reason, bishop e7 is a much more common move, and it's actually a better move, in my opinion. In this game, however, black actually went for bishop d6, a very interesting decision. And because of that, white plays very aggressively in the center. White immediately plays knight c3, black responds with c6, and white plays queen c2. Before even developing the king side and castling, white is already playing for this move e4. He's doing this as quickly as possible because he knows the black pieces are ill-placed to meet this threat. Black went ahead and got castled, but now Shirov expands immediately with e4. And due to the placement of these pieces, black is actually forced to go in for this line where she captures on e4. White recaptures, black recaptures, white takes once again, and now after knight d7, you can kind of see that white just has a slight advantage in activity here. This queen is placed on a very powerful central square. Black is going to try to kick it away with knight f6, but already some devastating kingside threats are going to come to black's king here. White continues with bishop d3, natural development, threatens checkmate, never a bad thing. Luckily for Wenjun, she didn't miss it. With knight f6, Alexey Shirov simply brings this queen over to h4, keeping the pressure up on this king side. In the game, black chose rook e8. Perhaps this move isn't going to get the defensive job done, although it's difficult to actually find a better move for black here. It's really tough to find a useful move. Perhaps you can try and challenge the center immediately with something like b5 or even c5, but these moves also aren't really getting the job done. In fact, we'll see b5 is tried momentarily here. Rook e8, white actually castles, and now black tries b5. And I'll let you at home give yourself a moment here. Try and find Alexey Shirov's response to b5. It's a pretty combative move, trying to open up your king on c1. So see if you can figure out how Alexey navigated this threat. All right, hopefully you found it. It was, of course, the move c5. Keeping these files closed for the moment, but of course sacrificing this pawn after bishop takes c5. There's this annoying pin on the d file that white will have to deal with. And now, the fantastic follow-up that Alexey Shirov found in the game and played is the incredible move g4. Completely ignoring black's threats in the center, and instead going for the throat with this move g5 and these mating threats on h7. Wenjun rose to the challenge and played bishop takes d4. Of course now, the natural follow-up is g5, hitting this knight, forcing it away from the h7 square. But this allows Wenjun to go for bishop takes b2 check. And now, with the threat to the bishop, it'd be a huge mistake to take on c2, or to take on b2. Black would recapture on d3, and now you've lost your greatest attacker in the game. So rather than take the bishop, white actually uses this king as a defender here, defending his strongest attacking piece with the king. And now, black brings this queen up to d5, trying to create more threats around this king. White simply captures this knight on f6, not for the material, but in this case, in order to get at this king. Black recaptures with bishop takes f6. We see queen takes h7, king f8, bishop b4 check, c5, and now I'll let you at home once again pause the video, try and find the killer knockout blow for Alexey Shirov here. It's a good one. You'll want to be able to find it. It's what makes this game pretty special from last year. Okay, hopefully you found it. It is, of course, first queen h8 check, king e7, and then the astounding queen takes e8. This is the move that knocks black out of the game. Black recaptures on e8, but this allows, of course, bishop takes b5 check. King d8 was played in the game, and now, even better than taking this queen is to play bishop c6, as Alexey Shirov does in this game, and he was the winner as Wenjun resigned after bishop c6. Of course, queen takes d1, rook takes d1, the king has to move again, and after bishop takes a8, white is simply up a full rook here. So a very nice game from Alexey Shirov, a very nice queen sacrifice, and very instructive, showing why the bishop should come back to e7 rather than d6. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Game Review. My name is Caleb Denby, and I will see you next time.